Hey folks, you may have seen a while back that YouTube announced it was experimenting with making dislike counts private to only the creator of the video. Research teams at YouTube have found there's this whole other use for disliking a video that I had never experienced as a creator, and you may not have either. Groups of viewers are targeting a video's dislike button to drive up the count. That's a big problem when half of YouTube's mission is to give everyone a voice. The update from YouTube is that the dislike button is staying, but the dislike counts will now be private.
I want to show you something that you might have already noticed. If you go to the YouTube homepage right now, you'll find a section called COVID-19 Breaking News. There you'll find a bunch of different breaking news and press briefings from different corporate media outlets that YouTube is promoting for everyone to see. Now, I don't know if YouTube has some kind of a deal worked out with these channels directly, or if they're just trying to play the "we're responsible and we care about COVID-19" card, but either way, it's just not working. If you go to any one of these videos, you'll find a really horrible like to dislike ratio. It doesn't matter exactly what the topic of the video is, whether it's about vaccines or new health measures or new cases. It also doesn't matter who's talking in the video, if it's a politician or a newscaster, or even if the source is technically right-leaning or left-leaning. Every single video has a really bad like to dislike ratio. It also doesn't matter which country you're in for this to be true. If I turn on my VPN and connect to the United Kingdom, you still get consistently bad ratios. The same is true for France, Spain, Canada, pretty much any other Western country that you can think of. The only country that I tried to connect to this wasn't true for is Russia, and that's not because the videos there had a lot of likes, it's because YouTube just didn't have any kind of a COVID-19 breaking news section for Russia at all. Now, if you're wondering, all of the clips I just showed you I recorded yesterday, and that's because I downloaded a Chrome extension called Return YouTube Dislikes. I'll provide a link to the extension in the description below, but all it does is access Google's API to get the live dislike count that YouTube is currently hiding. Before you get too excited though, this isn't really a permanent solution. Google is planning on shutting down the API the extension relies on December 13th, and at that point you're only going to be able to get estimates of the dislike count based on archived data and the number of views the video has gotten. That tension aside though, let me get back to what I was just talking about. Right now there are multiple things that are true at the same time. 1. People don't like when YouTube shoves content in their faces. If you read the comments on YouTube's breaking news section, you'll find that the overwhelming emotion there is just lack of trust. Lack of trust in YouTube, in media, in government, and in big medical companies. People feel like YouTube is promoting the content it wants you to see and hiding the videos that it doesn't like as much. What's unique about the breaking news section is that it's the only part of the YouTube homepage that isn't based on your watch habits and viewing preferences. It's just there and there's no way to get rid of it. That's what's causing people to lash out at YouTube with the one thing that they do have, which is the dislike button. Alright, that's the first thing that's true. The second thing that's true is that YouTube wants to keep promoting content like this. How do I know that? Well, at a fundamental level, YouTube just wouldn't keep promoting content like this that was consistently getting such negative feedback unless this was a really big priority for them. YouTube's goal is to keep you on the site as long as possible, and there's no way promoting run-of-the-mill speeches and news clips that people are visibly not enjoying is helping YouTube to do that. Now, I'm not saying I have any inside knowledge on why YouTube is doing this. It could be that there's some level of governmental pressure on YouTube to promote official, sensible content. It could also be that YouTube is just voluntarily trying to do this, to promote content that they feel will make them look like a respectable, responsible company in the eyes of the public. From the perspective of a YouTube executive, it could be a really simple calculation. Putting a couple videos up on people's homepage is not a hard thing to do, and if people are going to accuse YouTube of promoting disinformation, it gives them a really easy response. Maybe a video about some kind of alternative COVID treatment did go viral, but don't worry, as YouTube, we're taking steps to counter that. Just to be clear though, it's not always COVID stuff that YouTube has chosen to promote. Last November, for example, YouTube was promoting a variety of election-related content. If you use YouTube or pretty much any other tech platform regularly, you're very familiar with pop-ups like these that are designed to fact-check or provide context for what's been going on. The creator of the video doesn't get a choice as to whether that pop-up appears. In fact, there could be a pop-up in this video as you're watching it. There's no way to react to the pop-ups when they appear. You can't dislike a message from YouTube that says robust safeguards help ensure the integrity of elections. But based on what we can see from YouTube's trending page and the breaking news section, it seems likely that people would dislike those messages if they could. Not even because they objected to the content of the message, just because they don't want a big corporation like YouTube telling them what to think. Alright, point 3. It's embarrassing for YouTube that the responsible content they're trying to promote is consistently getting such a negative response. This one is pretty obvious. If anything I just said is true, it makes YouTube executives look pretty silly if their involvement in a cause actually ends up making people trust their position on it less. Also, that cause doesn't even have to be an official government position. Over the summer, when YouTube was promoting Pride-related content, those videos were also getting the same level of negative feedback. Whether you were for or against the position YouTube was promoting, people pretty much just viewed it as one thing: virtue signaling. This breaking news section has actually been a thing for quite a while now, and what surprised me is that really people haven't been talking about it as much as I would expect. Like, I would expect at this point there would be a variety of YouTubers or journalists talking about it, or that YouTube would have just removed the section entirely after all of the negative feedback, but neither of those two things seem to have happened. So those three things, the fact that people didn't like the content YouTube was promoting, the fact that YouTube was promoting it regardless, and the fact that people were giving it a very embarrassing reaction when it did go up, meant that something had to change. And last month something did. If people don't like what you're selling, but you have the power to stop them from being able to express that sentiment, why not exercise the power? Now, to be fair to YouTube here, that's not the reason they're giving for making this change. As you saw at the beginning of this video, the pretext for the decision, the reason why they're saying they're doing it, is to protect small creators from emotional abuse that comes from dislike attacks. And okay, I'm gonna try and be generous to YouTube for a second here. It's possible that that is a genuine problem. It's possible that some creators are unjustifiably going to be the victims of a lot of online hate when they post a particular type of video, and that's going to also take a toll on their mental health. This actually happened to me. A number of years back, I posted a video on PC and console gaming that was picked up by the PC Master Race subreddit. Now, the ironic thing is, I've actually never gamed on a console myself, but the fact that I mentioned a couple things that were pretty positive about console gaming in the video meant that the people didn't really like me very much. In the course of about 24 hours, I went from 0 to 1,000 dislikes on that video, which is more than the last 20 videos I had posted combined. Now, that was actually pretty hard for me at the time. I remember being very worried that all of that hate was going to spill over to other videos, and that people were going to start leaving negative reactions on the other content I was producing. So I quickly made the decision that I would hide likes and dislikes in the video, and then I was going to disable comments. After another week, I ended up deleting the video entirely, just because I didn't want to have to deal with that negative feedback. Now, that was a really difficult time. But the one thing I didn't ask YouTube to do, and the one thing I never even wanted YouTube to do, was to remove dislikes from every single video on the platform. All YouTube had to do to prevent dislike attacks from occurring was absolutely nothing, because creators already have the ability to hide likes and dislikes in their videos. There's not really much that this decision does that was something that creators couldn't already do. Even if there was some kind of angry mob of creators going to YouTube and demanding that they make this change, they wouldn't be happy with this either, because you can still see all of the same information on the back end regardless, as YouTube pointed out in the video. All it takes is just going into YouTube Analytics and you can see the dislike count. So before or after, you still see the dislikes on the back end. The only thing that has changed is the front end experience for everyone. And the fact is that includes creators. Like, even though I'm a creator, if I'm getting on YouTube, it's still helpful to me to see dislike counts on tutorials, on reviews, on political commentaries, on gaming videos, just on anything, because it helps me to figure out whether the video is worth my time. And that's going to be true no matter what kind of creator you are. Look, YouTube knows that dislikes are useful. They even said that in the video themselves. And that brings us back to the overarching point that YouTube is just not being fully transparent about their decision-making process here. Maybe it was partly done to protect small creators, but that's certainly not the entire reason, and in fact, it's a very small part of the reason why they probably went ahead and did something like this. So even if they're not lying, they're definitely not telling the whole truth. I'm planning on making some more videos on YouTube in the coming weeks and months. As you might have noticed, this is actually my first time back on this channel in almost 3 years, which is absolutely crazy. It's honestly a very weird feeling to be making YouTube videos again. The channel is probably going to look a little bit different now than what it did before, but if you're still here, thank you. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, because you don't really have any other options. Yeah, we'll see how many people see this.